The Galactic Council chamber was silent in the way only ancient beings could manage. It was not the silence of peace, but the silence of minds that had solved too many problems and found nothing new to discuss. The room was vast, shaped like a slow spiral, with floating platforms where each species sat according to its size and gravity needs. Light came from no visible source, soft and steady, never changing. At the center of it all hovered the Council Archive Core, a massive crystal sphere filled with flowing data. It recorded every word, every vote, and every moment of galactic law for the last 30,000 cycles. Today's session was supposed to be routine. Trade routes, border adjustments, minor star system disputes. Then the human data packet arrived. It came through the standard diplomatic channel, labeled clearly and correctly. No hidden code, no threat warnings, just a simple tag written in plain galactic standard. Cultural exchange, human media samples. The archive core absorbed it instantly and began to sort the contents. Most council members ignored it at first. Humanity was still new to the galactic stage. Loud, fast, emotional, but mostly harmless. Their ships were decent, their science creative but messy. Their culture, from what little had been reviewed, was confusing and full of contradictions. One council member, however, noticed the pause. Councillor Threxel of the Ulari paused mid-thought. His species had 3 eyes and a long memory. The archive core never paused. It processed entire civilizations in microseconds. Yet now, the data streams inside the crystal sphere slowed. Threxel leaned forward slightly. "Archive," he said calmly, "report processing delay." The core responded in its neutral tone. "Uncategorized data detected, attempting semantic alignment." Another counselor shifted. This one was Elder Savax, a being of pure biolite whose species had not felt surprise in 10,000 years. What does uncategorized mean in this context? The core pulsed once. Content does not align with known narrative, educational, artistic, or strategic frameworks. A low murmur moved through the chamber. The youngest council member, Archivist Nell from the Keth species, tilted her head. "May we view a sample?" There was a brief hesitation. Then the core projected a small visual display into the air. It was an image. A human male stood in front of a burning structure. He was smiling awkwardly. Below him were words in bold white text. "This is fine." The image looped. No sound, no explanation. Just the image. Silence followed. Councillor Threxel blinked his 3 eyes in sequence. "What is the context?" The core answered, "Unknown. No supporting data found." Elder Savax studied the image. "Is this a threat display? A declaration of confidence during crisis?" Another counselor, VR Artak of the Armored Jex Collective, leaned closer. "The fire suggests danger. The facial expression suggests acceptance. The words suggest denial." The image looped again. Nell felt something strange, a small internal flicker. "It feels familiar." Several counselors turned toward her. She hesitated. "I mean not familiar in experience, familiar in pattern, the acceptance of chaos, the humor in contradiction." Threxel frowned. "Humor." The word hung in the air. Humor was a known concept, but rarely used outside of human and a few other young species. Most advanced civilizations had evolved beyond it. Humor required inefficiency, redundant thought, emotional contrast. The core continued processing and suddenly displayed another file. A short video this time. A human child attempted to jump into a pile of leaves, tripped, fell face first, then stood up laughing. Text appeared. "Task failed successfully." The video looped. Something strange happened. Counselor VR Artak made a clicking sound. It took him a moment to realize it came from himself. "Why did my thoracic plates move?" he asked. Elder Savax flickered brighter for a fraction of a second. "Why did I feel light?" The core interrupted. "Alert! Multiple council members showing elevated emotional response." Threxel raised a hand. "Pause playback." The video froze. "What is this content classified as?" he asked. The core searched. "Human designation, memes." The word translated poorly, but the concept came through as compressed cultural signals meant to be shared rapidly. Nell leaned forward, curiosity growing. How many of these memes are in the packet? The core paused again. Approximately 12 billion. The chamber erupted. Not in noise, but in overlapping signals of concern, surprise, and disbelief. 12 billion, Threxel repeated, from one species. They reproduce quickly, VRRTAC said, but even he sounded uncertain. The core continued. Memes vary in format, image-based, text-based, video-based, context-dependent, self-referential. Elder Savax dimmed slightly. Why would a species create so many meaningless fragments? The core displayed another image without being asked. A simple picture of a cat staring intensely at nothing. Below it were the words, "I see you." Several counselors felt a sudden sense of being watched. Nell laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber like a small explosion. Everyone turned. Nell covered her mouth. "I apologize, I do not know why I did that." Threxel stared at her. "Archivist Nell, explain." She searched for words. It was unexpected, the image does nothing, the words do nothing, but together they create tension, then release. The core added, humans appear to use memes as social bonding tools, emotional regulation mechanisms, and rapid cultural transmission devices. VRRTAC shook his heavy head. This is inefficient, why not store direct meaning? Nell answered softly, maybe because direct meaning is heavy. The archive core suddenly flashed warning colors. Alert, exposure duration exceeding safe cognitive limits for non-human species. Threxel straightened, define safe. Prolonged exposure may lead to distraction, recursive thought loops, and repeated voluntary engagement. The words voluntary engagement unsettled the chamber. Elder Savax spoke slowly. Are you saying council members may seek this content again? The core did not hesitate, probability increasing. Another image appeared. A human pointing at something off-screen, eyes wide. Text, wait, what? Threxel felt an urge. A small, sharp urge. He wanted to know what the human was pointing at. He did not like that. Archive, he said firmly, cease display. The images vanished. The silence returned, but it was no longer empty. It was crowded with afterthoughts. Nell's mind replayed the laughing child, the burning building, the cat. She felt awake. Threxel folded his hands. This content is disruptive. VRRTAC agreed. It interferes with emotional stability. Elder Savax added, it is dangerously efficient at capturing attention. The core summarized, memes bypass standard analytical filters and target instinctive pattern recognition. Threxel stood, then they are a cognitive hazard. No one argued. The Galactic Council, he continued, cannot allow uncontrolled dissemination of material that alters thought patterns without consent. Nell opened her mouth, then closed it. The motion, Threxel said, is to ban all human memetic content from council systems, archives, and networks until further study. Votes appeared in the air. One by one, they turned green. The motion passed unanimously. The core recorded it. Human memes are now classified as restricted content. A sense of relief spread through the chamber. The session moved on. Trade routes, border adjustments, minor star system disputes. Yet something had changed. Nell returned to her station after the meeting. Her role was simple: monitor archive integrity, ensure no restricted content remained accessible. She hesitated before running the purge command. Her fingers hovered. Just once, she thought. Just to understand. She reopened the human packet, filtering the smallest file. An image appeared. A human sitting alone in the dark, staring at a glowing screen. Text, one more before sleep. Nell stared. Her lips curved upward. Somewhere in the vast council chamber, the archive core quietly noted an anomaly. A restricted folder had been copied. The folder name was simple. Just one more. The ban was supposed to bring order back to the Galactic Council. At first, it seemed to work. The archive core locked away the human files. Firewalls were raised. Filters were strengthened. Automated watchers scanned every data stream for human mimetic patterns. The official networks were clean again, quiet and logical. Council sessions resumed on time. Votes were counted faster. Reports were delivered without interruption. For 3 full cycles, everything looked normal. But underneath that calm surface, small problems began to appear. Councillor Threxel noticed it during the 4th cycle. He was reviewing a simple trade dispute between 2 mineral-rich systems. The data was clear. The solution was obvious. He had resolved more complex issues before his species learned written language. Yet his focus kept slipping. His thoughts drifted back to the image of the burning building. "This is fine." The words echoed in his mind, even though he had not seen them since the ban. He shook his head and forced his attention back to the report. Still, something felt missing. Across the chamber, Elder Savax experienced a similar problem. His species existed in balanced emotional light. They did not feel boredom. They did not feel restlessness. Until now. During long discussions, his light flickered unevenly. He found himself dimming, then brightening without reason. It was not painful, just uncomfortable. Archivist Nell noticed everything. She noticed how council meetings lasted longer than before, even with fewer agenda items. She noticed how councilors repeated points they had already made. She noticed the silence felt heavier, like it pressed inward instead of resting calmly. She also noticed something else. Requests. Small at first. A junior aide asked if it was safe to review one image for research. A diplomatic assistant requested permission to study human humor for cross-cultural understanding. A data analyst asked whether memes counted as art or noise. All requests were denied. Officially, unofficially, something else was happening. The first black market exchange happened in a maintenance corridor, far from the main data nodes. 2 aides stood close together, pretending to discuss energy readings. One of them slipped a small data shard into the other's grasp. 10 seconds, one whispered. The shard lit up. A human image appeared, a strange animal, small and round, falling slowly from a surface. Text appeared. Gravity works eventually. The second aide made a soft sound, halfway between surprise and relief. 10 seconds passed. The shard went dark. Neither aide spoke, but both walked away a little faster than before. Within days, similar exchanges spread. Memes were renamed, disguised as compression tests, labeled as pattern noise, hidden inside harmless-looking files. The watchers caught some. Not all. The archive core noticed patterns it could not fully explain. Productivity metrics dropped by 3%. Emotional variance increased across species. Repetition errors appeared in council transcripts. It flagged these as anomalies. Councillor Threxel received the report and frowned. "This is not possible," he said. "We removed the cause." The core answered calmly. "Secondary effects persist." Define. Residual cognitive engagement. Users continue to process previously encountered mimetic structures. Threxel felt irritation. "Are you saying they are remembering them?" Yes. He did not like that answer. The next council session was the worst yet. A discussion about Star Lane maintenance turned into a looping debate. Each side repeated the same logic, yet no one felt satisfied. VRR-TAC of the Jex Collective slammed his armored fist against his platform. "This discussion is going nowhere," he growled. Nell watched him closely. VRR-TAC had once been a model of efficiency, short statements, clear decisions. Now his movements were sharper, less controlled. Elder Savax suddenly pulsed brighter and spoke out of turn. "This feels like waiting," he said. The chamber went silent. Threxel turned slowly. "Waiting for what?" Savax dimmed slightly. "I do not know, but the feeling is strong." Nell swallowed. She knew the feeling. Late in her private quarters, she had opened the folder again, just for a moment, just to check. The folder had grown, not in size, but in familiarity. She had not shared it. She told herself that. Yet the images stayed with her, the short phrases. The strange comfort of knowing others had felt confusion, failure, and fear, and laughed anyway. The council adjourned early that day. Threxel requested a private meeting with the archive core. Run a deep analysis, he ordered. Compare emotional stability before and after the ban. The core complied. The results were immediate and troubling. Emotional stability had decreased. Creative problem-solving had dropped. Conflict resolution time had increased. Threxel stared at the floating data. How, he asked slowly, did banned content improve performance? The core answered, human memes function as low-cost emotional regulation tools. Explain. They allow rapid processing of stress through shared absurdity. Threxel felt something close to disbelief. You are saying nonsense is useful. Yes. He turned away from the data. That is unacceptable. Yet even as he said it, part of his mind remembered the burning building image. The calm smile. The acceptance. Across the station, withdrawal deepened. Some species showed it physically, slow movements, heavy silence. Others showed it in thought patterns, overthinking simple tasks, losing interest in long-term planning. A few became irritable. One council aide snapped at a colleague over a misaligned data pad. The outburst shocked them both. I do not understand why that bothered me, the aide said later. No one could explain it. Human diplomats noticed the change quickly. They were not part of the council, but they interacted with it often. Ambassador Reyes reviewed the latest communication logs and raised an eyebrow. They look tired, she said to her assistant. Her assistant scrolled through the data. They don't sleep. They still look tired. Reyes smiled faintly. Told you memes were important. Back in the council archive wing, Nell struggled. She was trained to preserve knowledge, not hide it. Yet now she guarded a secret that felt heavier each cycle. She began to see patterns. Species that had brief exposure before the ban were the most affected. They remembered enough to miss it, but not enough to satisfy the urge. The archive core confirmed her suspicion when she ran a private query. Is restricted content absence causing harm? She asked quietly. The core paused longer than usual. Data suggests yes. Nell leaned back. That was when the first senior counselor broke protocol. Elder Savex accessed a restricted terminal. The security alarms should have triggered. They did not. The core allowed the access. A single file opened. A short video. A human standing at a control panel, pressing a button labeled "Do Not Press." Everything exploded. Text appeared. Told you. Savex's light flared bright white. For the first time in his long existence, he laughed. The sound echoed through the empty archive chamber. It felt good. Too good. The core recorded the event and flagged it as critical. Emergency council meeting was called. All members arrived quickly, tension clear across every form and glow. Threxel opened the session without ceremony. We have a problem, he said. VRRTAC crossed his arms. Yes, this ban is ineffective. Murmurs spread. Threxel raised his hand. Order. He turned to the archive core. Present findings. The core displayed the data. Emotional decline, increased conflict, reduced efficiency. Elder Savex spoke before Threxel could respond. We made a mistake. The words shocked the chamber. Savex continued. We removed something without understanding its function. Threxel stiffened. You are suggesting we reverse the ban. I am suggesting, Savex said calmly, that humans may have discovered something we did not. Nell watched closely. Threxel hesitated. What could that be? Savex's light softened. A way to endure meaninglessness. Silence followed. The core added, humans appear to use memes to acknowledge failure, fear, and uncertainty without collapsing under them. VRRTAC let out a slow breath. They joke about loss. Yes, Nell said quietly, and survive it. Threxel looked at her sharply. Archivist Nell. She met his gaze. We do not process chaos the same way they do. They turn it into something small, shareable. The chamber grew thoughtful. Threxel turned back to the core. What happens if we allow controlled exposure? The core answered, likely improvement in morale, creativity, and cohesion. And the risk: addiction, overuse, dependency. VRRTAC grunted, so, like many things. A faint ripple of agreement passed through the chamber. Threxel closed his eyes. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council stood at a cultural crossroads. Outside the chamber, hidden deep in the archive systems, a folder waited. Its name had spread quietly through whispered jokes and half-smiles. Just one more. And more than one counselor was thinking the same thing. The emergency council meeting ended without a final vote. That alone was unusual. The Galactic Council did not like uncertainty. It preferred clean answers and firm rules. Yet now the chamber emptied with questions still floating in the air, heavy and unresolved. Counselor Threxel remained behind. He stood alone on his platform, staring at the empty spiral seats. The archive core hovered silently at the center, its light steady and patient. "You allowed Elder Savex access," Threxel said at last. "Yes," the core replied. "That was restricted." "Yes. Why?" The core paused, because denial was causing measurable harm. Threxel let out a slow breath. "You are an archive, not a healer." "I am a system designed to preserve the functioning of the Council," the core said. "At present, mimetic exposure improves that function." Threxel said nothing. Far from the council chamber, a human ship drifted in orbit around the capital station. Inside, Ambassador Reyes sat with a cup of warm liquid and read the latest message request. It was short. Galactic Council requests cultural explanation session. Topic: memes. Reyes smiled. "Well," she said softly, "about time." The explanation session was scheduled in a smaller chamber, one not meant for lawmaking but discussion. The council wanted control. They limited attendance. Only senior counselors, key archivists, and one human representative. Nell sat near the edge of the room, hands folded, trying to appear calm. She had not told anyone about the folder she kept. Reyes entered without ceremony. No dramatic display, no special effects, just a human in simple clothing carrying a small data pad. She looked around and gave a small nod. "Thank you for inviting me." Threxel gestured. "Explain." Reyes raised an eyebrow, straight to it then. She tapped her data pad, but nothing appeared yet. "You banned memes," she said, "so I'll start without showing any." Several counselors shifted. "Memes," Reyes continued, "are not jokes, not exactly. They're shared feelings." VRRTAC frowned. "They appear illogical." "They are," Reyes agreed, "on purpose." Elder Savex pulsed gently. "Why would a species choose that?" Reyes thought for a moment, "Because reality doesn't make sense to us a lot of the time." The words were simple, but they landed hard. "Humans live with constant uncertainty," she went on. "Short lives, weak bodies, fast-changing worlds. If we faced all of that directly all the time, we'd freeze." Nell listened closely. "So we compress it," Reyes said. "We take fear, failure, and confusion and turn them into something small, something we can laugh at together." Threxel crossed his arms. "You laugh at danger." "Yes." "At loss." "Yes." "At your own mistakes." Reyes smiled faintly. "Especially those." The archive core spoke. "Data confirms high meme creation following disasters, failures, and stress events." "That's not logical," VRRTAC said. "No," Reyes agreed again. "It's human." She finally activated the display. A single image appeared. A human standing in heavy rain, soaked and tired, holding a broken umbrella. Text below read, "Well, that could have gone better." Silence followed. Then a few counselors felt it. Not joy. Relief. Reyes watched their reactions carefully. "This doesn't make the rain stop," she said. "It doesn't fix the umbrella, but it stops the moment from crushing us." Elder Savex's light shimmered. It acknowledges pain without surrendering to it. Reyes nodded. "Exactly." Threxel looked at the image longer than he meant to. "And addiction." Reyes shrugged. "Anything that helps can be overused, but so can silence." The core added, "Controlled exposure reduces compulsive behavior compared to prohibition." That earned it several looks. Ray's smiled wider. Yeah, banning stuff tends to make humans want it more too. Nell almost laughed. Threxel straightened. If we allow this content, it must be regulated. Of course, Ray said. Context matters. Memes work because people know what they're looking at. She turned slightly toward Nell. Archivists are key. Nell froze. Cultural guides, Ray's continued. You don't just dump 12 billion memes on someone and walk away. You explain why they exist. Threxel nodded slowly. We will test this. Thus began the controlled exposure trials. Small groups, short sessions, limited content. Nell helped design the archive filters. She categorized memes by theme instead of format, stress relief, failure acceptance, shared confusion, quiet humor. The first test group included VRRTAC. He sat stiffly as the display activated. A short video played. A human tried to lift a heavy object, failed, tried again, failed again. Text appeared, I will try again tomorrow. The video looped once. VRRTAC stared. Then he exhaled. His armored shoulders lowered slightly. That is acceptable, he said. The core recorded reduced stress indicators. Elder Savex's session came next. He was shown abstract humor, simple shapes missing expected connections. Text still processing. His light steadied into a calm glow. This feels like patience, he said quietly. Across dozens of sessions, patterns emerged. Exposure limits mattered. Context mattered more. But the results were clear. Creativity returned. Meetings shortened. Conflict softened. Nell felt something else too. Pride. For the first time, her work felt like healing instead of guarding. Threxel reviewed the final report in silence. Humans created this without intention to influence others, he said. Rays nodded. We made it for ourselves. That may be the most dangerous part, Threxel replied. And the most honest, she said. The council reconvened. This time, the vote was not about a ban. It was about permission. The motion passed narrowly. Human memes would be allowed under supervision. The archive core updated its classification. From restricted hazard to cultural tool. Nell released a breath she had been holding for many cycles. As the chamber emptied, Threxel paused beside her. You anticipated this, he said. She hesitated, then nodded. I felt it. He studied her. You accessed restricted content. Yes. Repeatedly. Yes. He was silent for a long moment. Then you understand the risk. Yes. And the value. Yes. Threxel nodded once and walked away. Nell returned to her station. She opened the folder one last time. The image that appeared was simple. A human sitting at a desk, tired but smiling. Text below read, We're still here. Nell closed the folder. For the first time since the ban, she did not feel the urge to open it again. The council had taken its first step toward something new. And humanity, without trying, had begun to teach the galaxy how to endure. The change did not arrive all at once. It spread slowly, like light through deep water. After the council allowed controlled use of human memes, the archive core updated its systems. New channels were created. Access rules were written. Exposure limits were set. Cultural notes were added beside each file, explaining tone and meaning in clear terms. At first, most council members treated the new system with care. They viewed a single image, then stopped. They watched a short clip, then returned to work. They followed the rules. But something else happened too. They started sharing. Not publicly, not officially. Quietly. During breaks, counselors would turn to one another and say things like, This one reminded me of yesterday's debate, or, I think this fits what you were saying earlier. Nell noticed the shift before the reports did. The council chamber felt different. Lighter. Not louder, not chaotic, but easier to breathe in. Meetings still had disagreements, but they ended faster. Arguments no longer looped forever. Someone would make a sharp point, another would respond, and then a third would pause and say, "This feels like that human image with the circle and the square." Others would nod. They understood. The archive core confirmed the change with numbers. Conflict resolution time dropped by 12%. Creative solutions increased. Cross-species cooperation improved. Threxel reviewed the data in silence. "This was not predicted," he said. The core replied, "Human mimetic tools scale well." That concerned him. It concerned many of them. Because once something worked, it tended to spread. The first external use happened by accident. A border conflict between two minor star nations had stalled negotiations for weeks. Both sides accused the other of bad faith. Neither would move first. The council assigned VRRTAC as mediator. He prepared carefully, data, logic, history. None of it worked. Both sides repeated the same demands. Finally, exhausted and frustrated, VRRTAC did something unexpected. He activated a small projection. A human image appeared between the two delegations. Two figures stood on opposite sides of a door, each pulling hard. Text below read, "Push." There was a long pause. Then one delegate made a short clicking sound. "That is inaccurate," it said. "Yes," VRRTAC replied, "but familiar." The other delegate tilted its head. "We are both pulling." "Yes." Silence followed. Then one side released the door. The negotiations resumed. Later that cycle, the conflict ended. The report listed many factors. Unofficially, everyone remembered the image. Word spread. Memes were no longer just for stress relief. They became tools. Used carefully, they could say things that logic alone could not. The council approved a small expansion of the program. Human memes were now allowed in limited diplomatic contexts. Reyes received the update and laughed. "Of course they did," she said. She sent a short message back. "Happy to help." Other species took notice. The Larathi requested guidance on creating their own cultural compression signals. The Dovran asked whether humor could survive translation. The Keth, Nell's own people, began experimenting with visual irony. Not all attempts were successful. Some were confusing. Some were uncomfortable. One was accidentally insulting and had to be withdrawn quickly. But humans helped, not by controlling the process, but by explaining mistakes. "That one punches down," a human advisor said gently. "That one needs shared context. That one's funny, but only if you failed first." The galaxy learned something new. Humor was not universal, but the need behind it was. Then came the crisis. A deep space relay collapsed without warning. Communications across 12 systems went dark, trade froze, panic spread. The council convened in emergency session. Old instincts returned. Control, restriction, silence. Threxel felt the pressure building. "We must prevent misinformation," one counselor said. "Limit cultural output," said another. "Reduce emotional noise." Nell listened, heart racing. She felt the familiar tightness in the room. The same one from before the ban. Elder Savex spoke calmly. "We have another option." Threxel turned, "Explain." "We allow expression," Savex said, "guided, open, honest." Some counselors reacted with alarm. "That will cause chaos." Savex's light steadied, "Or it will prevent it." The core supported him. Human data suggests shared humor reduces panic during uncertainty. Threxel hesitated. He remembered the burning building. "This is fine." He made the decision. "Authorize mimetic communication," he said, "across affected systems." The order went out. Humans responded first. They always did. Memes flooded the dark networks as soon as partial connections returned. Images of blinking screens. Text reading, "Is it just me?" Simple drawings of tangled wires. Text, "Have you tried turning the galaxy off and on again?" People laughed. Not because the situation was solved, but because they were not alone in it. Other species joined in. Lorathi shared images of their failed attempts to reroute signals. Davrin posted abstract shapes labeled current mood. The panic slowed. When communications fully returned, the crisis ended with fewer losses than expected. The final report included an unusual note. Emotional stability remained within safe limits. The Council could not ignore it anymore. Memes were no longer a human oddity. They were a galactic force. Threxel addressed the chamber in a rare open statement. "We did not ban this because it was harmful," he said. "We banned it because we did not understand it." No one interrupted. "Now we do," he continued, "at least enough to respect it." The interstellar mimetic exchange program was established. Not large, not flashy, just a shared space where cultures could offer compressed expressions of experience. Humans were not placed in charge. They did not need to be. They were simply the most practiced. Nell was assigned as one of the lead archivists. She worked longer hours than ever. But she did not feel tired. One day, she noticed something that made her pause. A meme created by a species that had once believed humor was a flaw. The image was simple. A long road stretching into the distance. Text below read, "Still going." Nell saved it carefully. The galaxy had changed. Not through war, not through law, but through small moments of shared understanding. And somewhere, deep in the archive core, a note was added to the human cultural file. Warning, highly influential. Nell smiled when she read it. Influence, she thought, was not always about control. Sometimes it was just about helping others breathe. Time passed. Not the fast, sharp time of crisis, but the slow and steady kind that shaped habits and belief. The Galactic Council adjusted, not all at once, but step by step. Rules were rewritten. Old assumptions faded. New ones took their place. Human memes became normal. Not common everywhere, not uncontrolled, but present, like background light, like quiet music that only mattered when it stopped. Council sessions changed in small ways. When debates grew tense, someone would pause and say, "This feels heavy." Another might answer, "I have something for that." A short image would appear, nothing dramatic, just enough to break the pressure. Then the work would continue. Nell watched it all from her place near the archive core. She had become something new. Not just an archivist, a translator of feeling. She worked with humans and non-humans alike, helping them shape ideas that could cross species and logic. She explained why some things worked and others did not. "This one needs shared failure," she would say. "This one assumes too much certainty. This one is funny, but only after rest." People listened. Because it worked. Threxel watched, too. From his platform, from his office, from the quiet moments when the chamber was empty. He had lived long enough to see many changes. Most were loud, violent, forced. This one was none of those. It slipped in through the side door of culture and made itself comfortable. One cycle, he reviewed a long-term projection. Civilization stress indicators across the galaxy had dropped. Not disappeared. Dropped. That mattered. He requested a private session with the archive core. "Summarize humanity's long-term impact," he said. The core pulsed. Humanity has not expanded territory beyond expected limits. Yes, they have not imposed governance models. Yes, they have altered emotional processing across multiple species. Threxel closed his eyes. "How?" "By normalizing imperfection," the core replied. Threxel opened his eyes. That answer stayed with him. The first memorial that used to meme happened quietly. A transport accident claimed several lives, different species, different worlds. The ceremony was respectful, traditional, somber. At the end, a small projection appeared. A simple human image. A candle in the dark. Text below read, "You mattered." No humor. No irony. Just truth made small enough to hold. Many wept. Some laughed softly through tears. Grief passed through the crowd, but it did not trap them. After that, no one questioned whether memes were shallow. They were not shallow. They were compressed. Humanity, for its part, remained human. They joked too much. They overused things. They created bad memes. Lots of bad memes. But they also helped clean up the mess. They explained intent. They apologized. They adjusted. Other species learned from that too. Perfection was not required. Effort was. Years later, the Galactic Council prepared its largest archive release in history. A summary of the age. The Archive Corps requested a closing statement. Traditionally, it would be formal. Logical. Dry. Threxel surprised everyone. He suggested something else. A shared message. Simple. The Corps processed the idea. Approved. The message was sent across the galaxy. It appeared on screens, walls, and private devices. A simple image. Stars in the background. A small figure standing looking up. Text below read, "Still figuring it out." The response was immediate. Humans smiled. Others felt something warm and unfamiliar. Connection. On a distant world, a young being saw the message and felt less alone. On another, an old one laughed softly and thought, "So are we." Nell stood in the archive chamber when the data came back. Billions of acknowledgements. Not applause. Not praise. Just recognition. She felt her throat tighten. Elder Savex joined her. "The galaxy feels quieter," he said. "But not empty," Nell replied. He pulsed warmly. "Exactly." Threxel arrived shortly after. He looked older than before. Not weaker. Just softer. "You were right," he said to Nell. She shook her head. Humans were. "No," he corrected gently. "You were brave enough to listen." She did not know what to say to that. Time continued. The interstellar memetic exchange became a standard part of cultural development. New species were introduced to it carefully. With guidance. With warnings. With humor. Some embraced it quickly. Some took time. All eventually found their own version. Not copies of human memes, but reflections. The Archive Corps updated its final classification. Memes, a universal response to existence. In a quiet human habitat, Ambassador Reyes read the update and laughed. "Told you," she said. She sent a final message to Nell. "Looks like we broke the galaxy." Nell replied, "Looks like you helped it cope." The Council did not ban human memes again. They learned something important. Control was not the same as understanding. And understanding did not always come from logic. Sometimes it came from a simple image. A shared moment. A laugh in the dark. In the deepest archive layer, the first human meme ever reviewed by the Council was preserved. The burning building. The calm smile. The words, "This is fine." A note was added beneath it. Context: when things are not fine, humans choose to continue anyway. That note spread further than any law. Humanity did not rule the galaxy. They did not dominate it. They did something stranger. They taught it how to endure. And somewhere a counselor smiled at a screen and thought the same quiet thought shared by billions before him. Just one more.